guys? It's your boy Luke here for another Jock Market preview. Yesterday was absolutely wild all across the NBA. We already had the postponed game, but then everyone and anyone on the Nets who was able to be rolled out ended up being rolled out. So we dealt with an 8-man roster. We had that game go to overtime. So not only did the Nets have a lot of good plays on them, the Raptors had some of the highest raw scores on the entire slate. So overall, because we targeted that game heavily, ended up being a great night for us on the Jock Market. Anytime you have a game go to overtime and you're all over it, that is going to be the case. And on DFS, I actually had my lineups not go through. My internet canceled out about 2 minutes before lock. I didn't have any dummy lineups in, and ended up getting burned by that. So that's kind of the beauty of going to a Jock Market here. You're not dealing with anything like that. But of course, DraftKings today released late swap. So if you end up not getting your lineups in and there's at least 2 games left on the slate, you're able to swap your people in. Of course, that happens the day after I end up not getting my lineups in. There wasn't a second game available last night anyways, so it wouldn't have really mattered. But kind of was a little bit of a kick to the stomach while I was already down. But either way, we're focusing on the Jock Market here. These are going to be my top 6 targets for the market tonight and people I expect to come in with a high expected value. A quick recap of yesterday's best buys before we hop into it. First off was Scotty Barnes, who gave us $4.39 profit per share at an IPO price of $9.06. That was just below our target price, so we ended up nabbing a few shares of them. Ended up being very profitable. Again, that game went to overtime, so it's no surprise that both Scotty Barnes and our number 2 best buy, Gary Trent, finished in the top 10. Gary Trent Jr. gave us a little bit more profit at $5.23 profit a share, and he went for $6.82, which was actually a little bit higher than I expected, but it was still lower than our target price there at $7, so we ended up getting quite a few shares of Gary Trent as a result. Our last best target from yesterday was Cameron Payne. He gave us $1.04 profit per share, and was really close to giving us a lot more than that. If he ended up making one more basket, he would have jumped 5 or 6 people on the board right there, but he also would have gone a points boost, so would have probably taken him at least another 10 spots up the board. So overall, it was a great night from Cameron Payne, but could have been also much better. Our duds from yesterday were Stephen Curry, who ended up, breaking the record in terms of the 3-pointers, but then really fell off. It seemed like that was really all he was playing for. It kind of idled for the rest of the night, and can you really blame him? He's the greatest shooter of all time at this point, so we'll give him a pass. Chris Boucher was right about neutral, so he played for that Raptors team. He wasn't somebody who was going to play closing time or in overtime, though. He's not that type of player. He doesn't have that type of gas tank, so unfortunately wasn't a beneficiary of those extra minutes like our other Raptors were. And Mitchell Robinson was the huge miss. He didn't end up playing very well today, only put up 6 fantasy points, which is going to happen from time to time. But at the same time, he was our penny stock, so we didn't end up losing much profit. Overall, was a great night. We ended up being slightly profitable because of those Raptors up top. I also took a few shares of Kevin Durant. He was over $17, which was definitely a little bit steep, but he was projecting for over 60 fantasy points, was almost a lock to finish as the number 1 or 2 player. So I ended up getting a few shares there. And you'll see we do have a guy up top tonight that I really do like. These targets, by the way, are as newsproof as possible because of all the COVID situations going on, because of people being rolled out last second, that kind of thing. I'm trying to target players that we know are going to get minutes. They're not dependent on an injury situation or anything like that, and that already have good matchups. Obviously, as the day goes on, we expect more and more plays to open up, better plays at different price points, whether it's because of injury or, again, COVID. So make sure to check if you guys are on my Patreon throughout the day. I'm going to be posting a lot of updates on there. And from 6 p.m. tonight to 7 p.m. tonight, we're going to be doing our quote-unquote live chat. So if you're part of the Patreon, no matter what tier you're on, you will be invited to that part of the Patreon page. That'll be actually on the Discord side, so make sure you guys keep an eye out for that link. And on there, I'm going to do a voice chat. I'll be talking about some of the players I'll be targeting tonight. I'll also be talking about some NBA DFS stuff as well. If you guys want to chat about some of your players in your player pool, some of the people that you'd be considering for Jock Market, make sure to stop on in the Discord chat, and we'll be able to cover all of that for you. So that's what we're going to be doing for the live chat. I want to make it a Patreon exclusive for right now. I have a lot of content I put out here for free on the YouTube, but at the same time, got to make sure I'm giving back to the Patreon subscribers a little bit. So that is going to be what we're doing for the live chats here. With that being said, our first target for tonight is going to be Duncan Robinson of the Miami Heat. We're dealing with Bam Adebayo, same thing with Jimmy Butler, likely to be out. So as a result, Robinson's been playing a lot of minutes for this team, and I have him projected for 32 minutes tonight. He obviously has to have the shot falling though. So that's why we see him here at number 104. If we're looking at him on a pure median basis, not going to be anybody who really jumps off the board, particularly on a jock market type of format. You're getting negative points for any shots that you miss. So if Duncan Robinson doesn't have that 60-70% shooting type of night, he's not going to put up a ceiling performance. The thing is though, whenever he gets hot, he's scorching hot. I mean, we saw just two games ago put up over 25 real points, over 40 fantasy points on the jock market. So he has that well within his range of outcomes. So for me, he's a penny stock that has high volatility, could give you a top 15 or even top 20 performance if he has the shots falling. The best part is I have him at a target price of just $2, so I don't expect him to have much steam behind him or much attention, particularly in this type of format. Next up, we have Tyrese Maxey, who will be playing on the other side of that game. This 76ers Heat game is definitely going to be a little bit lower scoring, but the thing is they might be without Joel Embiid. You already know that Butler and Bam are out, so these defenses aren't going to be nearly as effective as they are with those players. All of them extremely good defenders. I mean, Butler, one of the best outside defenders in the NBA, also very capable on the inside of putting up blocks. I mean, Bam, borderline defensive player of the year. And then when you're dealing with Joel Embiid, I mean, while he's not a defensive player of the year candidate, still a really solid defender inside. So either way, I expect these defenses to be a little bit more porous tonight than usual. We also have Seth Curry questionable for the 76ers. He's actually siding a little bit more towards a game time decision. And if he ends up being out, Max will be in a great situation tonight. But either way, like I tried to say before, these are as news-proof as possible. So even if Seth Curry ends up playing tonight, I still project him for over 26 minutes. And at that type of projection, with the scoring that should be opened up tonight with some of those guys out, I see it being a very attractive game to target. I have to keep an eye on Joel Embiid. He's still questionable as of right now, but they have taken a very cautious approach with any of his injuries this year, so could very well end up sitting. Next up, we have Jaren Jackson Jr. of the Memphis Grizzlies. Has a very solid matchup tonight against the Trailblazers, who run with high pace, a relatively low defensive efficiency as well. And overall, Jackson Jr. is a completely different player when Ja Morant is off of the floor. He goes from right around a solid 1.04 fantasy point per minute basis to 1.19 fantasy point per minute. As of right now, Jock Market, a lot of the other tout sites out there in the industry have him projected closer to 1.04 fantasy points per minute. That is just an oversight. The direct usage increase comes from the shots that he's putting up, some extra rebounds, even a little bit of extra assist usage from Morant not having as much ball handling duties. So Jaren Jackson Jr., I have projected closer to number 21 rather than number 48 on the board, and a target price of $6. Again, with the type of EV that we're expecting from him, I'd actually be willing to overpay for him a bit. People in that 48 to 55 range really go for closer to $4.50 or even $5 at max. But Jaren Jackson Jr., I want to make sure I get some shares tonight, so I'd be willing to overpay a bit, particularly when we see him at a projection closer to 21 or 25 and payouts at 7, 8, maybe even upwards of $10 if he has a ceiling game. Next up, we have Damian Lillard on the other side of that game. He's going to be a lot more expensive at $9.75 as a target price, but this game in general could very well be a shootout. You have two teams that love to run with pace, and particularly with Morant off the court, this Grizzlies team loves firing up threes. That means that if we have our shots falling, this could be an absolute fantasy goldmine. And for me, Lillard, you're going to see a huge usage increase. With McCollum out for the year, I mean, definitely at this point with the punctured lung, Lillard needs to step up. He knows he needs that role on this team, and if he steps up and takes this team to the next level, they could put themselves back in the playoff hunt. But as of right now, they're really hurting. I mean, you see all these trade rumors surrounding this team, and for most players, I think that would be a little bit distracting, but for Lillard, that might actually be a little bit motivating. We've seen in the past, he's had these trade rumors swirling around him, then he's gone out and absolutely balled out. I can remember last year, he went out for 50 points, I think 3 games straight after having these type of rumors. And I'm not saying that's going to go ahead and happen tonight, but he's definitely going to have a usage increase with McCollum out for the year. Also a solid matchup here against the Grizzlies. So if you can get him for less than $9.75, I think you're getting an absolute steal, and he cracks my top 10. Next up, we have Jarrett Allen, also somebody who cracks my top 10 tonight. This matchup against the Rockets is one of the best on the entire slate. I have him at a $10.75 target price, and this front court for Houston is extremely undersized. You're dealing with Christian Wood, who's less than 6'7". You're also dealing with Sanguine, you can come in, who also isn't the biggest guy himself. They love to play a little bit small, and while Wood and Sanguine play a little bit bigger than their size, they're not going to be able to match up with a Jarrett Allen. He's an absolute tank. He's got a lot of size to him in terms of his weight as well, and I expect him to be an absolute offensive force in this game. And finally, at number 1, somebody who's not going to surprise anyone, Nikola Jokic at a $15 asking price. This matchup against the Timberwolves is going to make an elite player even better tonight. The Timberwolves are one of the worst teams defensively in the entire NBA, and even though Karl Anthony Towns is a decent matchup for Nikola Jokic, he's going to get his production, whether it's from assists, his defensive prowess, or of course his scoring. He's somebody who can do it inside, he can step out, hit his three-pointers as well. He's essentially uncoverable in today's NBA. So for me, I'm going to call him Mr. Reliable. This guy does not finish outside the top 5 on the jock market, and when he does, it's usually because he's getting ejected or getting injured. There's usually no other circumstance where he's not one of the top plays on the slate. So for me, as long as he's coming in with a relatively reasonable price tag, I'm going to be all over him. Last night we saw Kevin Durant go for more than $17, and that's where we start to get into the gray area with these slam dunk plays. Last night Kevin Durant projected for well over 65 fantasy points, so he was a no-brainer at that type of price tag. Jokic, though, at a 61-point projection, starts to get into where it's debatable. So for me, I'm going to take him if the price tag's right. If it's not, I'm not going to go ahead and force it. So it really comes down to the supply and demand here. But Jokic is always somebody I'm willing to add to my portfolio because, first of all, he's so consistent, and he ends up being the number 1 scorer a majority of the time. And he's the only guy in the NBA we can say that about. The only player who puts up similar type of production is Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Jokic is just much more consistent than a Giannis. That is all I've got for tonight, folks. Go ahead and let me know down in the comments who you guys have as your favorite target. Maybe it's somebody that I spoke on. Maybe it's somebody I haven't even considered to this point. Either way, I'd love to hear from you guys to go ahead and get some debate going. We're going to have even more NBA content coming throughout the week. Tomorrow, we're going to have our preview. It's going to be coming out in the morning rather than the afternoon to give it a little bit more shelf life for you guys out there. We're also going to have more live chats coming. So tonight, obviously, from 6 to 7 p.m., I'll be on the Patreon discussing all things NBA. We're going to do that going forward. For this week, anybody that's a Patreon subscriber will have access to that. Starting next week, anybody with the all sports tier will get access to that. We don't have an NBA tier just yet on the Patreon. That will be coming here at some point. Just need to get the infrastructure created, projection system, all of those type of filters made, so I can take it from my raw numbers and give it to you guys in a digestible format. As of right now, it'd be a little bit of number vomit, just giving you guys tons and tons of metrics. I'm going to try and make them into visualizations and things that are actually usable on your end, not just the complicated mess that I'm able to decipher through. Because for me, I've been using them for years. They make perfect sense. I'm able to make a lot of decisions with them. But for most DFS players, especially newcomers, that kind of thing, it would be a little bit overwhelming. So make sure to keep an eye out for all of that. We're going to have these live streams going forward. Make sure to like and subscribe if you guys haven't already. And good luck with all of your bidding for tonight.